Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for April 4th, 2022. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Miami Valley Cable Council for televising and taping tonight's meeting for rebroadcast on Channel 6 and streaming live over the internet at mvcc.net. It will also be recorded and available for later viewing on mvcc.net. Since this meeting is both audio and video taped to form a complete record for possible appeal to City Council and/or the courts, it is important that anyone who wishes to address the Commission will need to come to the lectern to speak into the microphone and give their name and address for the record. Planning Commission is a volunteer independent body appointed by Council whose mission is to hear all bodies involved and subsequently make a motion to approve, deny, continue, or recommend the application. All action by the Commission can be appealed to City Council. This time, I'd like to introduce the Commission. On my far left is Ken Lackey, our Assistant Secretary. On his right is Carol Fisher, our Secretary. On my immediate left is Connie Gaw, our Recording Secretary. My name is Don Shemin. I am the current Chair. On my right is Ray Waske, our Vice Chair. And on the right end is Commissioner Don Rethman. Today for staff, we have David Roller, one of our city planners. All right, moving on to items on the agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes for March 21st, 2022. Do we have any discussion or comments on the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I've read the minutes and they seem to be in order, so I move for their approval.
We get a second?
Second.
Any final comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Waske?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mr. Shemin?
Yes. Moving on to new business, the second item on our agenda. It's a zoning map amendment to rezone 2001 East Dorothy Lane from EDO number 14 to B Business. It is case number PC-22-005, and this is actually a public hearing. For staff, I'm going to have to assume it's Mr. Roller.
Thank you, Mr. Shemin. We have received an application regarding 2001 East Dorothy Lane, rezoning that property. The site location is the former home of Krispy Kreme Donuts as well as Rapid Fire Pizza. It's shown right here on the aerial image, outlined in a red dashed line. It's at the intersection of Delco Park Drive and East Dorothy Lane. It's part of the Kroger development that's there. This is one of the outlots in front of the store. Currently, it is zoned Economic Development Overlay number 14. The applicant is asking for the rezoning because the current zoning district stipulates that the proposed changes to the existing development would necessitate a review and approval under our former plan unit development ordinance, which no longer exists. So site changes would not be something that could move forward. However, rezoning it to a conventional zoning district does allow for that, and they are proposing to rezone this to B Business. It's probably a pretty normal thing to have a restaurant or a commercial use in a B business district, and so this is really an encapsulation of that effort. It's a fairly conventional request. We did review the application in accordance with the City of Kettering zoning code. We included that review in your staff report that was in your packet. Section 1153.12 lists the requirements for zoning map amendments. We did include the specific language within your staff report, but we do have a summary of that that we'd like to go over briefly for your consideration. Section 1153.12 tells us that there are certain findings that have to be made in order to make a recommendation to City Council, as well as there's certain matters that Planning Commission is tasked with considering or making a finding upon. So we'll go over that here. In the first section, we have that the application must satisfy at least one of the following criteria, and the There's a list, all of those were included in the staff report, but the one that's the most important one is the one that gets us to yes, and that is that it is consistent with the plans and policies of the city of Kettering. Within our comprehensive plan, this area is designated as sub-regional commercial. The proposed uses within the B business district align with those uses that are set out in the comprehensive plan. And as well, it is one of our goals and policies of the city of Kettering to basically get rid of our economic development overlay districts and replace them with conventional zoning districts. So it meets the first criteria on the list. The rest of them, we could go through the analysis if you have any questions on that, but we did find that either they didn't apply or the answer was no, that we couldn't make the finding in those regards. But this does allow us to move forward to part 2, which we can make an affirmative finding in that as well. Has to satisfy at least one of the following. A2A, is it 1 acre or a complete block face? No, it is not. But in A2B, it is contiguous to an alike zoning district, which is the B business district to the north, which is the home to Applebee's restaurant. So we can make a positive finding in that regard. So this does allow us to make a positive recommendation for approval to be advanced towards City Council. Part 2 are the 6 matters for consideration. C1 is the extent to which the proposed amendment and proposed use are in compliance with and deviate from adopted plans, goals, and policies. As was stated before, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the goal to remove the economic development overlay districts and replace them with conventional zoning districts. Issue 2, C2, the suitability of the property in question for the uses permitted under the proposed zoning. It was previously being used as a restaurant. I believe the proposed use for the site is a restaurant. It's already developed. It's part of a commercial center. So it is well suited to the uses that would be permitted on the site. Part 2, Issue 3, C3, the adequacy of public facilities such as transportation, utilities, and other required public services to serve the proposed use. Again, it's a currently developed site. They're not proposing to make drastic changes here, just enough that would trigger us to recommend rezoning the property rather than just trying to patchwork it together. Issue 4, C4, the effect of the rezoning on surrounding uses. Again, it's a developed site. It was previously being used as a restaurant, so it would continue to be used that way, provided that the rezoning is approved. So the effect would be the same as it was before. Issue 5C5, the effect of the proposed rezoning on the economic viability of existing developed and vacant land within the city. Again, the proposed rezoning imparts no tangible changes to the surrounding uses. The existing development would continue, and the newly permitted uses are similar to those of the current EDO. The final issue is whether or not the proposed amendment can be is solely in the interest of the applicant. We find that it is not solely in the interest of the applicant. That is in the interest of the city at large. It's in line with our goals to rezone the economic development overlay districts to one of the 11 recognized zoning districts, the conventional districts. And this would allow for the fair and expedient, efficient, and uniform application of the zoning code. We feel that all of the findings were able to be made, and the evidence supports the request. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Roller and Mr. Lackey?
No, I don't have anything.
Ms. Fisher? Mr. Waskey?
I have none.
Mr. Ruthman?
No questions.
I have no questions myself at this time. If the applicant would like to address the count, this would be the time. If you would, give your name and address for the record.
My name is Jeff Lonchar. I'm with CESO Inc., 2800 Corporate Exchange Drive, Columbus, Ohio, 43231. I guess I'm sort of the agent's agent in this instance. TrackWest Partners and Brandon are looking to purchase property, and based on discussions I've had with staff, rezoning kind of seems like the best course of action. I don't think they planned to really change too much, but it was just enough to where it probably just made sense, given the flexibility it would provide. So other than that, that's really all I have to add. Staff covered, I would say, most of it, but I can answer any questions if you'd like.
All right, any questions for the applicant? I'm not going to be as official on this one.
No.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, this is a public hearing, so at this time, it's time for any audience participation. If anybody would like to address the commission on this request, now would be that time. Seeing no one coming forward, staff recommendation.
Certainly. Based upon the evidence presented and the analysis and findings made within the staff report, staff recommends that the request for approval of a zoning map amendment for the property located at 2001 East Dorothy Lane be forwarded to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
All right, any final commission comments, concerns, questions? All right, since this is a public hearing, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
Mr. Woski?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schimmin?
Yes. And I believe Mr. Lackey has a motion for us.
I do, thank you. Whereas an application has been received from Brandon Kublanow, Track West Partners, agent for the property owner, requesting approval of a zoning map amendment rezoning property located at 2001 East Dorothy Lane from EDO number 14 district to the B Business Zoning District. And whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the facts surrounding this request, including an oral and written report by city staff, which is incorporated herein, and held at a public hearing on April the 4th, 2022. And whereas this request constitutes approval of a rezoning from the EDO number 14 zoning district to B Business for property located at 2001 East Dorothy Lane, and whereas the Planning Commission adopts the findings of fact presented by staff in their staff report, which is incorporated into this motion. I move that the applicant's request for approval of a rezoning from the EDO number 14 district to B Business for property located at 2001 East Dorothy Lane as shown on Exhibit 1, proposed zoning map, be recommended to City Council for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Lackey?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
Mr. Woski?
Yes.
Mr. Schimmin?
Yes. Next item on our agenda is audience participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on topics not on tonight's agenda, this would be the time. Seeing none, other business, signing of plats,
We do not have any plats to sign this evening.
communications and reports,
Nothing to communicate at this time.
planning commission comments. Mr. Lackey.
I will just say that if Mr. Kublanow sees this and I mispronounced his name, I apologize for that. I did the best I could. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Fisher.
I have none.
Mr. Waskey.
I have no comments.
Mr. Rethman.
No comments.
I have no comments myself, so this commission will stand adjourned till our next regularly scheduled meeting at a time of 7:13.